Going live, and I believe we are. Here we are. Hi, everyone. Hello, I'm Rachel Chase, and how are you doing? It's me and you, and here we are together. And on this video, I am sharing about active listening and what that means, and how using some simple practices based in mindfulness work and mental health practices can help heal your relationships, can help you have more harmonious relationships with yourself and others. So, what is active listening and how can it help? All right. Now, this is something that in my coaching and spiritual counseling sessions and women's groups that is coming up big time right now. And it's also coming up in my own life and in the collective at large. This sense of agitation and frustration in relationships, perhaps conflict. Now, frustration, agitation, and conflict, these are parts of life, aren't they? These are going to happen. We're going to experience frustration, agitation, and conflict. It's going to happen. And so much of the time, our wounds, or our ego self, or our inner child, or whatever you want to call it, parts of ourselves get very upset when we have to deal with frustration, conflict, agitation. We don't want to do that. We don't want things to be frustrating. We don't want things to be agitating. We don't want there to be conflict. So the first step is accepting that there is some frustration here, and there is conflict, and there's agitation. So, avoiding it, trying to avoid it, might help in the short term, but it certainly won't make things work out in the long term. And in fact, even in the short term, all it's really doing is causing even more frustration, really, because we're working hard to avoid it, or we're struggling to get rid of it, or pretend that it isn't there, or perhaps just make it go away and just stop it and change the subject, right? So how we handle frustration and agitation and conflict in relationships can help us hold the space and have the capacity to sit with the difficult stuff more capably. We can become more capable in our ability to navigate, to manage, to handle the frustration, agitation, and conflict, rather than avoiding it, fighting against it, pretending like it doesn't exist, or shoving it down. Because all those things do is just really make the wounds fester, don't they? Shut us off from parts of ourselves, negates what's really going on, perpetuates the patterns. So active listening is part of the work of shifting from autopilot to conscious action. Active listening means we're showing up for ourselves and each other. You might hear this vague sound in the background, like a rhythmic sound. We have a bird's nest just outside the house here that has these little babies in it. It's actually a hole in the outside of the house up there where the starlings have created their nest, and the babies in the afternoons are getting fed and they're hungry. So I think that's an interesting metaphor for us right now. There's parts of us that are hungry, that long to be fed, that want to be nourished, that want to be understood, that want to be seen, that want to be validated. And that's really what's going on with the frustration, conflict, and agitation, that we want to be validated. We want to be seen. We want to be understood. We want the other person to change sometimes too. We want ourselves to change. We get frustrated with ourselves. Why am I this way? Why are you this way? Why can't it just be different? So the frustration, the agitation, and the conflict. Active listening says, well, how can we create some space with presence and acknowledge what's happening before doing anything about it? So when we acknowledge, for example, imagine a conversation that you're having with someone and you're not feeling acknowledged and they're not feeling acknowledged, and you start getting at each other's throats and you start calling each other names, or accusing or pointing fingers or belittling or getting really defensive. And when it gets triggery, right? Triggers, we call them triggers. Like, this thing happens, then this thing happens. This thing happens, then this thing happens. It's just like a switch. It happens. So in order to bring some presence, bring some validation, bring some understanding, we're going to use some active listening. In order to find a new way to navigate into a healthier place, we bring this validation and understanding. There are a couple of parts here that we're going to look at with active listening. One is reflection of feeling, and the other is reflection of content. Now, reflection of feeling is simply relaying what you're seeing the other person is feeling. Simply giving them an acknowledgement that their emotions are seen, are valid. They get to feel that way. Same with yourself. If you're feeling a certain way and you're pissed about it, it's about shifting that and giving yourself validation by acknowledging the emotion and noticing the sensation you're feeling as it's coming up, the feeling in the body. Acknowledging, I'm feeling this way. Okay. This is how I'm feeling. And giving your body some permission to go through what it needs to go through to process that feeling by saying, okay, here's how I feel, and here's where I'm feeling it, and here's what my breath can come in and do. And I can just make some sound or get a little agitated and let that agitation be moved with some catharsis, some sound. Give it some expression in a healthy way without projecting it out onto someone else, or without beating yourself up over the fact that you feel this way. So, okay, that's for yourself. Now, here's the other person feeling this way. They're upset, or they're angry, or they're frustrated, or they're sad, or they're confused. So often, so many of us, especially helpers and healers and, space holders, creatives, we tend to want to fix this situation. Or maybe we're just trying to control it so that they don't feel a certain way, so that we don't feel a certain way, because when they feel that way, then we're going to get upset, and I don't want to be upset, and that means I'm not okay and I'm not safe. Essentially, we all want to feel safe, right? So if you're looking to feel safe and you don't feel safe, give that to the other person. By giving it to them, in other words, by reflecting their emotions by acknowledging it and saying, I see you feel angry. It's okay for you to feel angry. You're upset. I know you're upset. Or that's upsetting for you. You feel hurt. You feel sad. I know you feel tension or even just some compassion. I'm sorry this is hurting you right now. If they're going through something. And if it's something that you've done, that you've said, owning it, acknowledging it. I'm sorry I said that to you. It's probably a two-way street where they might have said something too. But we have a third thing with that we're going to look at in a minute in terms of boundaries. But the first two are a reflection of content and reflection of feeling. So noticing that they're feeling a certain way instead of rushing into the next thing is really important. And telling them specifically that you hear what they're saying is really important too. Because sometimes things can spin out of control when somebody says something, blah, 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 blah. And the other person says, well, I don't feel that way. I feel this way, blah, 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 blah. Then it's like a fight. Then it's like, where did we go? How did we get off on this tangent, right? Slowing it down. When they say something about whatever it is, you can feel yourself kind of getting there like, okay, I really want to say this thing I have to say. Pausing. Acknowledging that this person has just spoken something. This is for them. This is their truth. In this moment, this is where they're coming from. Giving them an opportunity to sit with what they've said and giving yourself an opportunity to not go into spinning things out by acknowledging what they've said, the content of their words. So I hear what you're saying. You're saying that you're feeling this way. You're saying that you're experiencing this. You're saying that you did this and you did this and you did this and now you want this. Or you're saying, I think what I hear you're saying is this. Like you're attempting to try at least to let them know that you're seeking to understand what they're saying. Because this is about the fundamental need, back to the beginning of what I was saying about we all want to feel seen. We just want to be understood. So giving it to the other person is a way for you to receive it too. Now, it doesn't mean it's conditional. Like, if I give it to you, you now have to give it to me. I understood you. Now, why don't you just understand me? And we can ask for understanding. But with this reflection of content action step, this is going to help to slow things down a little bit and bring some space and a little fresh energy to the moment. Like, okay, I hear you're saying this. And it gives the other person an opportunity to think about what they're saying, to maybe clarify it, or to maybe even say something different. Maybe, if they want to. Or maybe not. Or maybe they'll go, wow, when you put it that way, I guess that is what I'm saying. But what do I do about it? And then maybe you just don't know what to do about it. Maybe it's okay that you don't know what to do about it. Maybe we can just sit with it and not try to fix it all right this moment and just sit with the emotions and give the emotions some space. Because ultimately, it's in that moment of the emotional movement that things can smooth and get a little calmer and we can start to think more clearly. Because when things are charged up, thinking is not going to be clear. We're going to just be rattling out. We're going to be freezing up, or we're going to be running away. We'll go into that fight, flight, or freeze, the stress response. But when we practice active listening, really tuning into what the person is saying, hearing them. Now, this is obviously not always such an easy thing to do because we're playing out what we're going to say already. We already know what we're thinking about it. Before even going there, pausing, invite the possibility that what they're saying has something more in there that maybe you can learn from, hear a little differently than you think you're hearing it, you know? Like we can make so many assumptions before that person even got their sentence out and just jump right into what we have to say, you know? I know I am guilty of this. Hey, you know, we make mistakes. We're learning. It's not about wrong. It's about learning. You know, there's so much in here that has to do with emotional maturity that we didn't learn when we were growing up, maybe, you know, and now we're just teaching ourselves how to do that. Walking each other through the process, walking ourselves through the process. So using that reflection of what you're hearing to be sure what you're hearing is right, inviting the other person to say what they need to say, holding space for that moment. And maybe not saying anything about what you think about it, perhaps, maybe, or just listening into the moment and inviting in the wisdom. You know, what can I do or not do? What's the right thing to do in this moment? Maybe all those things I thought I needed to say about it can just wait for another moment. Maybe I don't need to rush in to rescue. You know, whatever your impulse is, noticing what that is, having compassion. And then also acknowledging how you're feeling and what you need. And this is the third thing, which is to say, I'm feeling this way. And let's say someone is saying something that's hurtful. Rather than coming back to hurt them in return, you know, retaliate. Let them know how what they've said hits you, how that comes at, what the effect is, that what they've done has an actual effect, and this is the effect it's having. I feel, like kind of hurt around that. That hurts to hear that, and I know I've said some things that have hurt too. So, you know, this is sort of like coming to a new agreement, maybe that we can try not to say these hurtful things, but maybe it's an ongoing pattern that this other person has been doing, and we get to say that's not okay. You know, I'm really feeling that every time this happens, it seems to be a pattern. At least right now, this is really hurting me right now. And what I really would like to have happen is this instead, rather than pointing fingers and calling the person names, you know. So when we do that, we're just going to invite more defensiveness. So catching ourselves when we're doing these things, this is about that mindfulness and pausing and taking a moment and engaging in this active listening, you know, letting the other person know that you see what they're feeling, that you validate that, letting the other person know that you hear what they're saying. And then if you know, depending on the situation, there might be times when you need to say, I'm wondering, do you understand what I'm saying? And who knows, you know, maybe the person might get angry, like, well, of course I understand, but, you know, like, I don't know, maybe it feels like sometimes you don't understand. So, you know, just letting them know from a non-defensive or non kind of angry way, like finding a way to calm it down before letting the other person know what you need to. So these are just some thoughts that are coming up lately in my work and um, around communication and relationships and how to move forward more with this healthier way of being with each other. When we do that for ourselves and each other, we are really creating a better world for all. And so that's my that's my truth today that I wanted to share with you. And I look forward to sharing more and connecting with you more. And you can always reach out and go to my website, which is rachelchase.com. And, let me know if you'd like to work with me sometime, or just keep tuning into these videos. And I look forward to doing more for you as well. So you look through my channel here, you'll see a lot more. There's some podcast shows and yoga and meditation videos and a lot of other teaching videos and meditations and all that good stuff. So thanks for joining me today. Peace and blessings. I'm Rachel Chase, and we'll see you around. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.